288 Sherbourne is an iconic Toronto landmark that has gained fame and notoriety for being inhabited by Kenny Hotz and Spencer Rice. Well, what exactly is inhabitation? Relegating the spectrum of human experiences to one word would fail to encompass the grand aspects of living. For Kenny and Spenny, that includes, but is not limited to, laughing, crying, loving, working, learning, surviving, creating, training, cooking, growing, and most importantly for our purposes, entertaining. Within its 4,000 square feet, 288 Sherbourne provides a bounty of venues and stages for entertaining. Whether it's a table hosting a player, a backdrop for a comedian, a bay window for a band, a hardwood floor for dancers, a courtyard for animal acts, or an elevated runway, this house provides an almost unlimited series of unique stages. But a house represents more than just the features between four walls. The psychological concepts of what a house is and what a house means are different things to different people. To Kenny, this house is a petri dish, a breeding ground for ideas, experimentation, and growing chaos. To Spenny, this house is a prison. He'd much rather be somewhere else, and he's never been shy about voicing that opinion.
You're quitting. Yes. You're quitting the show.
Yes. I'm out of this f***ing nightmare.
To the viewers like you and me, this house is a place where we can escape from reality. The house won't ever reject us. It won't ever criticize us. It won't ever berate or denigrate us. And as a result, the house radiates a powerful energy of approval and acceptance. No matter what trouble we are facing, the KvS House will always welcome us out of the rain and give us a front row seat to the funniest show in Canadian television history. So how did the house get this way? Who is responsible for instilling so much character between four walls that fans of the show still make a pilgrimage to the house to this day? The answers to those questions are fascinating, to say the least. But to get to this house, we need to start with the original Kenny vs. Spenny house. The one from the pilot. There were multiple houses shown in the pilot, so which one was it? To help narrow it down, there's the scene where Kenny takes Frankie out in the morning. There's a scene where Spenny comes home from the gym. And finally, there's the scene where Rod comes over to assault Kenny. All of these shots have a brick wall on the right side, a wooden fence on the left side, and a path leading to the road. So I'm going to focus my search on a house or apartment building where the main entrance is along a path at the side of the building which is adorned by a brick wall. Well, to make a long story short, it's this building we see at 3 minutes 49 seconds right before Spenny gets his mini fridge delivered to the house. It's 2920 11th Street, Santa Monica, California, apartment 4. You can see there's a path leading up the side of the building with a brick wall on one side. Here's a closer look at it. And if I look at the real estate listings for apartment 6, I can see that each unit has a front terrace with a wooden fence separating it from the communal path. Which answers the question, why was Kenny so concerned that Frankie took a dump there?
Oh man, Frankie.
If it's in front of Kenny's house, he would have to pick it up regardless, so what's the big deal if Frankie dumps there? Because that's the walkway for all the residents to leave their units and get to the road. And I'm sure that there would have been a rule in their rental agreement that prevents tenants from letting their animals dump there. Apartment 4 last sold in 2004 for $619,000, and its estimated worth today is about $1.2 million. I'm not sure how many different competition ideas were on the table for the pilot, but the premise of the weight gain competition is simply brilliant in the context of survival. Two guys without a lot of money trying to make it in LA devise a way to get a TV network to not only feed them for a week, but gluttonously feed them for a week. Classic cunning Kenny. So what does this house symbolize? I cannot say it represents the struggle of trying to make it in show business, because Kenny used to live in a garage beside a car when he first moved to Los Angeles. Instead, this house is more of a stepping stone on the way to making it. Successful enough to move out of the garage, but not yet making it as a Hollywood guy. If you look around the house, you can see something that gets brought up every once in a while. Kenny's Price is Right name tag on the refrigerator. The name tag is indicative of Kenny's ambition and growth within the entertainment industry. In his early career, and even during KvS, he would try to expose himself to people in show business as a way of getting his foot in the door. Spenny describes in an interview, after Kenny vs. Spenny became successful, there was an occasion where he was out eating lunch with Kenny, and Kenny kept getting up and going to the bathroom. When Spenny asked what the problem was, Kenny responded that there was a high-ranking show business executive eating lunch with his son at another table. Kenny kept walking by in hopes that the son would A, recognize Kenny, and B, initiate a conversation. That way Kenny could start his own conversation with the executive in an organic way that wasn't spontaneous self-promotion or an intrusion on his lunch. I would think that he had similar ambitions when electing to participate in The Price is Right. Winning fantastic prizes was one goal, but likely second to rubbing elbows with people in production, sparking conversations, and making himself memorable. Reinforcing my theory are two ordinary Americans who made unassuming appearances as contestants on The Price is Right, only to go on and become successful household names. 23-year-old Aaron Paul was invited to come on down by his real name, Aaron Sturtevant.
Aaron Sturtevant, come on down. Aaron, you're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
He appeared on January 3rd, 2000, and went all the way to the Showcase Showdown, where he overbid by $32.
Bitch! 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 Bitch!
On June 20th, 1980, 23-year-old Vanna White was picked as one of the original four.
Vanna White! Come on down! You are the first 4 contestants on The Price is Right!
Unfortunately, she did not make it out of Contestants Row. She may have been distracted by her own vanity.
What are the bits again, may I ask?
You know, you're so busy looking at yourself on the monitor, you don't know what's going on.
She, of course, would go on to become the hostess of Wheel of Fortune just 2 years later. I saw this comment on Reddit, so I reached out to Kenny to ask about it, but he never returned my email. Now, the most obvious question you're going to ask me is, how the hell did I find that building? Well, normally I would love to tell you, but in this case, I cannot. And it's not because I did anything illegal. In fact, anybody could do what I did and find that building. However, in doing so, I also found a lot of sensitive information that I wasn't looking for. And just out of respect and as a precaution, I'm not going to share what I did. That being said, something curious that I found was a shared address between Kenny and Wolfish, 222 Ruth Avenue, Venice, California. Is that where he lived in the garage? Maybe Kenny would like to comment on any shenanigans that went down in that house if he ever does a handcuffed commentary or a gain weight commentary. Anyway, 2 years after filming the pilot, the guys would find themselves flying back to Canada in search of a house to begin the series. 7 Earl Street, Toronto is what fans would call the Season 1 house. It's a small, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom townhouse lacking character. It's what we would colloquially refer to as a cookie-cutter house. When the CBC purchased 26 episodes, they provided funding to rent a house for filming. The budget wasn't huge, so the guys had to rent what was within their means. I unfortunately couldn't find rental numbers for 2003. The closest I could find was from 2009. 13 Earl Street rented for $3,200 per month, and the rent in these units can increase by anything between $50 per month and $250 per month between tenants. So the CBC may have been paying anywhere between $1,700 per month and $2,900 per month to rent this place for the show. As of 2022, a similar unit rents for $4,275 per month. At 2,500 square feet, the house was immediately too small for the kinds of competitions that the guys were filming. Just look at Spenny's fashion show with 4 judges, 3 models, Spenny, and a crew behind the camera all crammed into the living room. Look at Spenny defending himself with his white cane. The quarters are so close that he almost makes collateral damage out of the crew. And of course, when the guys wrestle, they always end up banging into walls and cupboards. So what brought an end to the Season 1 house? I always just figured that since the show got cancelled, the CBC stopped paying the rent, so the guys moved out. That just seemed to be the most logical explanation to me. But recently a YouTube user commented to me that they were kicked out of the house. So I started investigating, and I found this old interview where Kenny mentions that they were evicted. Okay, why? Kenny also mentions in a commentary that the neighbors were always complaining about all the noise.
Call your mother! Get a nurse! And a nanny!
What have you done with
Is that why they got kicked out? YouTube user Crimson asked me if I thought they got evicted because of the damage Kenny caused in the closet during the boxer episode. I would have to say probably not. Most landlords wouldn't know of damage like that until you moved out and then they did an inspection of the entire house. You know, they would know about something conspicuous like a broken window, but how many landlords are going to inspect the inside of a closet unless you had already moved out? So I did some digging around, and I'm comfortable concluding that they were evicted because the landlord wanted to sell the house. According to my chronologically confused investigation, the last episode filmed was Boxer, and it was likely filmed in late September or early October 2003. Sometime after that, they were evicted, and the house was listed for sale in March 2004. So that would mean that after Kenny and Spenny left, the landlord did not seek out new tenants. Therefore, Kenny and Spenny were likely not evicted for being problematic. It was that the landlord wanted to cash out. The landlord sold the house for $570,000 in 2004, and the most recent listings I could find were from 2021, where these townhomes were valued between $1.4 and $1.6 million. Once the series was picked up by Showcase in 2004, the guys began looking for an appropriate place to resume filming. A whopping 1.2 kilometers, or 3/4 of a mile away from the season 1 house, the guys would find 288 Sherbourne Street. Sherbourne Street was named by Samuel Ridout in 1845 for his family's hometown in England. Samuel died in 1855, and there are no pictures of him, but this was his house on Seaton Street, which was later occupied by the Unwin family, who are the subjects in this photo. Streetcars, being the main form of public transportation, were a part of Sherbourne Street beginning in 1874 and ending in 1942. The area grew over time and would become populated with affluent business owners and stately mansions. However, the Victorian-style mansions would eventually lose their appeal as family dwellings. In the early 1900s, wealthy business owners who had the money to purchase a house like this would rather build something new that had the latest technology, like electrical sockets to plug in a refrigerator, or build multiple bathrooms, each with its own toilet. They didn't want to take on the chore of maintaining a brick mansion, stoking a coal furnace, or replacing wooden-framed windows. So the vacant mansions became appealing to landlords who wanted to convert the properties into boarding houses. Having been built in 1864, 288 Sherbourne Street eventually became one of those undesirable boarding houses. But unlike some of its neighbors, 288 Sherbourne Street was brought back to life by two dynamic and emotional artists. Kosso was a USSR-born artist who erected sculptures in various cities across North America and Europe, including the cauldron surrounding the Eternal Flame at Israel's largest memorial to the Holocaust. At least 40 of Kosso's sculptures were commissioned by various public and private enterprises around Toronto. Some of those sculptures bore a passive association to Kenny vs. Spenny. Oftentimes they're just out of sight of the camera, like in the homeless episode during the scene where Spenny gets arrested. The Necropolis Cemetery across the street contains Kosso's Onward. When Spenny goes to the spa and journalist and tries to get a happy ending, Kosso's sculpture, Meeting Place, is literally 25 meters away from the Rosedale Wellness Centre. Inner City Gate is now at Toronto General Hospital. When Spenny arrives at the hospital in 10 Mile Race, the sculpture is just out of sight on this grassy knoll on Spenny's left. But it was at the TD Centre when it was originally revealed in 1978. A patch of grass now stands in its place, but do you know what's right beside that patch of grass? The cows from Sit on a Cow. As of today, Kosso still bears an association to the guys, at least to Spenny anyway. Kingston, Ontario, Spenny's current homestead, features a Kosso piece on the waterfront called Time. The locals refer to it as the Kissing Stones. There's a Kingston urban legend that the stones are built on a fault line and one day they're going to touch each other or kiss. Spoiler, they're not built on a fault line. Rita was a Canadian artist and painter. While she produced works in various styles, we're going to direct our attention to her hard edge works from the early 1970s, which focused on geometric shapes and movement. After studying some of her works, I can confidently say she is responsible for painting Spenny's bathroom. That work would eventually be lost when his bathroom was renovated after filming season 4. Kosso and Rita purchased the dilapidated house in 1970 and transformed it from a 13-unit rooming house into an oasis of creativity and inspiration. They are responsible for many of the ornate features within the house, which give it the character missing from the season 1 house. Starting from the top floor and working down, as far as I can tell, the master bedroom was reserved as a gallery for Rita's larger works. This slope from the roof in Kenny's room can be seen here in the gallery. Something even more interesting about the 3rd floor is that the rooftop deck gave a direct view of Rita's largest work. There's never a shot of it in the series for good reason, but it stands somewhere over here in this sort of direction. An 18-meter by 18-meter mural titled Sunrise covered the top 7 floors of the Neil Wick building at 96 Gerrard Street East. After completing the work in 1971, the mural was only visible for 8 years until a 25-story high-rise was built beside it. The mural remains intact, but unseen by the public. In fact, if you go to Google Maps and zoom in on the crack between the 2 buildings, you can see the blue and the yellow from the edge of the mural. However, this work faced west, and it's not actually the mural that she could have seen from the balcony. So why am I telling you about it? After the community had growing concerns over the possible destruction of Sunrise, Letendre was commissioned to create a second mural on the east-facing side of the building. Upward Dream was completed in 1980. This would be the mural which could be seen from the balcony at 288 Sherbourne. If you go to the balcony right now, you won't see this mural. After scouring the internet unsuccessfully, I reached out to 2 of her children and 2 of her grandchildren. I was eventually directed to the Galerie Jevic in Toronto, which sent me this, a digital copy of a photo from the Art Gallery of Ontario catalogue, Fire and Light. This is, as far as I know, the only surviving photo of Upward Dream. Sometime after this photo was taken, the mural was destroyed by factors of elemental exposure and poor quality building materials. The bricks on which it was painted began crumbling, and the entire side of the building has since been covered in aluminum siding. Beyond that, there are a few noticeable changes to the 3rd floor which took place over the series. First of all, Kenny's bathroom. The sink under the window was removed after season 2 and replaced with a storage unit. More construction took place between seasons 4 and 5. The shower was eliminated, and all the fixtures except for the toilet did a clockwise shuffle. The bathtub was rotated 90 degrees and placed where the shower once stood. The sink moved to where the storage unit was, and the storage unit shifted to where the tub used to be. So it went from looking like this to looking like this. Second, Kenny's bedroom underwent construction between seasons 5 and 6. The only thing they did was build this wall. Watch me go back and forth a few times between the blueprints I made. The closet still exists outside of the bedroom. You can see the door to it here. And also the bathroom entrance remains unchanged. So all the landlord did was put up that one wall. You can see the area behind the new wall here, and I have no idea why they did that. Since the show ended, I've heard rumors that the 3rd floor was divided into 2 bedrooms, but I can't confirm that. For the duration of the series, there was this little closet outside of the master bedroom. As far as I know, we only see the inside of it during Naked when Kenny makes his umbrella shower curtain. Moving down to the 2nd floor, Spenny's office was Kosso's office. Kosso filled the space with small-scale models of his work and a desk under the window overlooking the stairs for putting ideas to paper. Spenny's bedroom was Kosso's den. We only briefly see the doorway where some plants and some sculptures spill over from the office and into the den, but there's also this photo with Kosso showing off his plants by the bay window. One of the obvious questions about Spenny's room is why does it have a sink in the closet? When the house was built in the mid-1800s, indoor plumbing was a major luxury. Homeowners who could afford it would often only have one full bathroom in the house and a number of sinks in other places for people to wash up while the main bathroom was occupied. Moving on, there was a nook-type area on the landing of the second floor, and for seasons 2 and 3, Spenny utilized this space as a small gym consisting of some free weights, a treadmill, and an exercise bike. This area was Kosso and Rita's personal gallery, with artwork on the walls and a sculpture in the center. Eventually, the landlord walled it off between seasons 3 and 4 to make an additional bedroom, and when the guys moved back into the house, they used it as a prop room. It was at this time that Spenny's closet was eliminated from the floor plan. During season 2, there was no door on Spenny's closet. The landlord removed the walls inside the closet and added a door with no handle and a small sliding lock. The removal of the closet created a larger floor plan in the former gallery/gym, so the person renting that tiny room could have a little bit more area. I made a blueprint of what the second floor looked like during seasons 2 and 3, as well as a modified version of the house for seasons 4, 5, and 6. Something worth noting from the season 2 and 3 blueprint. There are 2 bedrooms on the second floor that face the courtyard. The room on the left was filled with Rita's paintings, so it might either be a larger gallery of completed works waiting to be sold, or it could be an office for her. I don't know, it's a room full of her paintings. After Spenny's gym nook was walled off into the props room, Rita's painting room became what I'm going to call Spenny's late season gym. Now the important part. There is at least one other bedroom that we never get to see at any point during the series. Spenny's late season gym has this window on the left side of the room. And if we look at a shot of the back of the house, we can see 3 windows on the second level. This is the one in Spenny's late season gym, and the closest we ever come to seeing the room containing these 2 windows is in Piss Off More People at 3 minutes 28 seconds, where we can see the doorknob to that room. Given that I've determined every other bedroom was either a gallery or an office, I'm forced to conclude that this one was Kosso and Rita's bedroom. What did Kenny and Spenny use it for? Crew equipment storage? More props? Was it painted in a similar way to Spenny's bathroom? I don't know, I'd love to know. Moving down to the first floor, there isn't too much to comment on regarding the dining room or the kitchen or the conservatory, but I'm going to include the photos I could find just for the sake of preservation and posterity. The living room area was completely redone by Kosso and Rita. A wall like this would have separated the front door area from the living room, so they created a clear line of sight by removing that wall. Along with that, they peeled 18 layers of paint from the living room floor. When the house was originally built, it likely contained stairs like this. Kosso and Rita eliminated the compartmentalized staircase and replaced it with a soaring cascade of steps. Those steps would be a focal point for anyone entering the house, and also for anyone watching the show from the comfort of their home. In my opinion, the most iconic characteristic of the house, which makes it uniquely Kenny vs. Spenny, is the staircase. Again, the psychology of the house means that the stairs are different things to different people. They are a mountain leading to a cave where Spenny can hide from the world. They are a beam of light for a king to descend to his people. And finally, they are a runway for introducing characters. Little did Kosso and Rita know that their beautiful artwork was destined to be not only covered in puke and urine, but it would be the stage for the most memorable moment in Canadian television history. Now let's make our way past more of Rita's artwork and head downstairs to the basement. The shelves, which are now bare and devoid of any purpose, were once a part of Kosso's workshop. They were packed with all sorts of projects and ideas and raw materials. Unfortunately, I don't have any information on the sauna other than it exists. When Kosso would become exhausted with the creative process, he would venture into the courtyard for inspiration. Kosso and Rita designed the courtyard to create a sense of peace and escape from the fast life and noise of the city. Would you believe that the pond was once teeming with life? One of the articles I read indicated that Kosso and Rita would transfer the fish into an aquarium in the basement during the winter months. I suspect that the aquarium was against the back wall in this room where Spenny was hiding during the naked episode. There's a long fixture along the ceiling at the far end of the room, and it may have been for a fluorescent light or a heating lamp. I feel as though if it was there to light up the room, it would be hung down the center of the room and not fixed at the end of the room. So I think it was there to light up a full-length aquarium that stretched wall to wall at the end of that room. Moving back outside, the coach house only received a little bit of attention during the series. So first of all, what is a coach house? A coach house is a two-story structure designed to store carriages and horses on the ground floor with a living area above for the driver.
The horse isn't fed and watered, sir.
The coach house that we knew as the production office was utilized as Rita's studio. She redesigned the second story into a mezzanine of sorts and added a 14-foot skylight. Part of the second story was removed so that sunlight could shine through from the skylight to the ground floor, but also so she could fix tall canvases to the wall. Here you can see the camera pan from the second story work area to the ground floor work area. Rita would go here for isolation, but also for the inspiration that comes from the view overlooking the gardens. And we're going to end our tour of Kosso and Rita's home with the front yard. They removed the precast concrete steps and added another set of flowing stone stairs that stretched from the front door to the sidewalk. Today it looks essentially the same as it did in the early 90s, except back then it was adorned with one of Kosso's sculptures called Cubro. Kosso Ilul passed away in 1995 from heart failure at the age of 75. Rita continued to live at 288 Sherbourne for another 9 years, and then sold the house and moved to Montreal in 2004. Rita Letendre passed away in November 2021. She was 93. After Showcase picked up the series, production rented out the house from the new owners for $4,300 per month in late 2004. The guys began filming season 2 almost immediately while it was still winter, but for seasons 3 to 6, the guys would film during the spring and summer months, and the house would be roomed out to students for the remainder of the year. During that limbo between seasons, most of the furniture and KvS props would go into storage until the next season. When season 6 wrapped up, the stuff went into storage as usual, but after that, it all disappeared. Sebby indicates that among the things lost was the Yarp mask.
That disappeared, unfortunately. I don't know where the hell that went. After a season was done, the house would get cleared out, thrown in a locker somewhere. If there was another season, the couch would come out. And then after the last episode, it got lost. Like basically all the props got lost.
This guy on Reddit claims not less than 3 times that he was one of the guys who cleaned out the storage locker. He indicates that some of the things taken to the dump include the red couches, the giant vagina from Gorilla, and according to OP, he took for himself Spenny's big black dildo that he leaves next to the bed that he f***s himself up the ass with every night.
And I want it back!
Sebby also discusses in his interview with Oliver George that once the landlord realized that a successful television show was being created at the house, they raised the rent by a few $1,000s. Both Kenny and the production team decided to look for another house to film in, and quickly realized that the house on Sherbourne was already the best possible place to film the series.
And we quickly realized there's nowhere else in Toronto that we could think of that we could find a house that size where we could do the crazy shit that we do.
So they decided to suck it up and pay the rent increase. What's the area like today? How has Sherbourne Street changed over its almost 200-year history? Many of the mansions have been demolished to make room for high-density housing like apartment towers. A few of the Victorian-era buildings still stand proudly due to protection by heritage status, serving as a reminder of an era long past. Besides the buildings and the infrastructure, it's the people that have changed the most. The neighborhood has descended deeper and deeper into crime and chaos, to the point where the front yard, which once hosted an elderly man giving a eulogy about art and society, would be fenced off to discourage vagrants from coming on the property. If you head south towards the lake, you will find 230 Sherbourne Street, an old mansion turned boarding house which is now vacant, but it has its own YouTube channel made of CCTV camera footage. Violence, public this, and theft are daily occurrences. Look at this one guy with his bike on the other side of the fence. These thugs decide they want the bike, so they jump the fence and steal it right out of his hands. During the time of KvS, there were anonymous crackheads and ladies of the evening, but the days where the worst things that could happen were addicts bumbling along committing petty crimes has long since passed. Do you remember Moss Park Arena, the site of Kenny's tragic figure skating accident and of Spenny's destruction by hockey checks? This is where the KvS house is, and 650 meters, or less than half a mile away, is the intersection of Sherbourne and Queen outside of Moss Park Arena. And this is a recent news story of a man being murdered at that intersection outside of Moss Park Arena,
where the man collapsed after being attacked by a group of people early this morning and then stabbed.
There's a reason the owners put up a gate and a fence at the front of the house, and it's not to keep us out. So if you want to go there, I'd recommend you go while the sun's still up. Is that the end of this video? What about the Pandemic house at 45 Ossington Avenue, Toronto? It's kind of a KvS house. It has classic Sebby establishing shots. It was the main location for a competition. It had Kenny, Spenny, Sebby, and Matt Merrick. It had lots of KvS relics and artwork like the Virgin Mary statue, the Kenny/Bruce Lee drawing, and the Asian sign. Google says the Vietnamese roughly translates to New Life Buddhist Temple, and the Chinese translates to Flower Buddha Hall. I'm 99% confident that means it was a place to pray, but my 1% also says it might have been a restaurant. The building that it came off of has since been demolished and replaced with a high-rise, so I can't give you a better answer than that. I think I can safely assume that Kenny bought this sign because it says Fat Dong on it. In fact, I know he did, because after writing this script I was watching the GOAT episode and I saw this. He taped over the other words to make Fat Dong more prominent. And the final pièce de résistance is a piece of fan art which must be at the apex of avant-garde Kenny versus Spenny. This is Yarp with his trademark hammer, painted on top of a collage of newspaper articles about the show. I could only find links to 2 of the news articles, but I put them in the description in case you want to read them. Unfortunately, one of them is behind a paywall now. It didn't always used to be, but it is now. Kenny purchased this 2,000 square foot property in October 2011, and he rented it out on Airbnb for allegedly $349 per night. But the property also contained a 1,300 square foot commercial space on the main floor, which could be rented out to retailers as a storefront. Kenny found his first retail tenant in early 2012. Unleashed in the City is a dog walking, daycare, and training business. Unleashed in the City moved out to a new location in January 2017, and the storefront went up for lease. The Casper Sleepwear Company opened a pop-up in the space during July and August of 2017, calling it the Casper Cottage. You could book online or drop in and take a nap on a Casper mattress. Since the pop-up only lasted 2 months, Kenny needed to find new tenants after the summer. In September 2017, UK-based eyewear company Ollie Quinn rented the space until April 2020. Once they were out, Pandemic was filmed shortly thereafter. These scenes all take place within that commercial space. Unfortunately, you can no longer spend the evening amongst KvS memorabilia. Kenny decided to cash out in April 2021 at the height of the COVID real estate market. The property is now owned by Fuse Create Ad Agency, who uses the storefront for product launches and pop-up retail. Which brings us to the end of this edutainment video. So my next 2 videos are not going to be randomly selected. I'm going to bring you a short video talking about when you'll see US tour dates, and then after that I'm going to analyze the First to Laugh Loses competition. I'd like to start a new segment where I rate each episode, and I think First to Laugh Loses is the best episode to introduce the segment for reasons that'll be clear when you see it. As for this video, there are many people who contributed to it. There are many people to thank. Tobias Botch, Philip Jevic, Leif Henderson, Ron Elul. And instead of droning on and on like that, I'm just going to roll some credits. As always, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.